All right, so now that we have our web-based fonts chosen, we have this link tag that has been developed for us. Now, it's kind of crazy, right? I mean, it's saying we're doing a link. The relationship is that it is a pre-connection link. So what that means is that when the page loads, the page wants our web browser, whether that's Google Chrome, Safari, Internet Explorer, Firefox, whatever we're using, to go and connect to Google's fonts and draw them in to use them. And then it says where to go find those Google fonts. The next thing that's happening is we're also linking to specific fonts inside of here. So it's bringing in the fonts from the website, but this isn't just a pre-connection. This is a style sheet. So we created in our notes website a style sheet link just like this, except that we link to a file that we are using. Instead, we're now linking to a file that is being provided by Google on the web. And then the next thing that's in this list is how to actually call upon these fonts and use them inside your CSS. Notice the way these are written and the syntax. This uses the brackets and the quotation marks and the equal signs, which means this should be pasted into your HTML, whereas this is using the colons and the semicolons, and font family is definitely a CSS declaration, so this should be used in your CSS. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and select this link here, and I'm going to make sure I've copied everything, including the brackets. I'm going to right click and copy that, or Control C on my keyboard. I'm then going to go back to Dreamweaver and bring in that code. Now the question is, where does that code go? You have two options, remember, of where you're putting coding. Does it go in the head tag, or does it go in the body tag? This is something we want the website to do automatically, but doesn't need to necessarily be something like waving of a hand that somebody's going to see. It'll manifest, but they don't need to see the coding. It's not putting anything on the page physically, like an image or a box. So it's going to sit inside the head because it's something that is providing information to the body to make it look different. Just like we did here with our link for our own style sheet on line 6, I'm going to hit enter and backspace, and I'm going to paste them in with Control V here to bring those two tags in. The next thing we're going to do is save this. So Control S will save, or you can go to File, Save. But nothing's occurring because we haven't actually said that we want to use Merriweather or Roboto. Now, this is going to be different depending on the fonts you picked, so please pay close attention. You need to be using the code that's being given to you by Google. So in this case, it says the font family, and then it has Merriweather, serif. So that way, if they can't load Merriweather for some reason, which I don't know why they wouldn't, it'll default to the next serif font on the computer. If it can't load Roboto, it's going to default to the next sans serif font. So if I want to call upon Merriweather here, I have to create a CSS code that calls upon it. So let's say, for instance, I'm going to create a heading. So I'm going to go ahead and in my header right here on line 12, I'm going to create an H1 of heading 1. Oh, I should probably turn off my caps lock here. That is crazy. Okay, H1, and I'm going to put heading here. Okay, now that creates a gap above my header, and that's okay. We're just really testing this out to show you how to bring in a coding of a web-based font. So I'm going to go then to my CSS to call upon my H1. Now remember, you've linked your CSS, so you should have it up here. You should not have to go over here to your notes website files and open it up because it's linked. So what's really cool is Dreamweaver just shows it right there. And when you do that, you can pop between your CSS and your source code of your HTML and still see the live view here. So I'm going to go to my CSS. I'm going to go all the way to the bottom. And actually, I'm going to go back to my header and not make it blue. I'm going to make it yellow because that's what it was originally, so I can actually see text in it. And then I'm going to go down to the bottom and call upon my H1 just like I normally would. So H1, and then hit the space bar, and then I'm going to test this out. I'm going to do a font family of Merriweather. So I'm going to go grab the font family code, not including Roboto, because I only want Merriweather to apply to this heading. I'm going to copy it, Control C, then I'm going to go here, and in the brackets, I'm going to paste it. You can then see immediately yours should update. If it doesn't, you can click up here and see that update automatically. And then what we can do is we can make every font in the whole page default to your secondary font, because you probably picked like a heading font and a body font or a copy font. And so mine is Roboto. I want my text to be defaulted to Roboto. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that. And in here, what we're going to do is we don't have a way to call upon the whole page as a whole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a body declaration. When I do that, everything will default to whatever's in my body, but if something is read after it or before it, that would be overwriting like a heading 1 style, it'll overwrite it. So I can copy in or paste in my Roboto font, and you'll see that now if I scroll through here, everything is now in Roboto by default because that's in the body tag. And if I go back to my source code, that means anything within this body tag, if I collapse it, anything within there is going to be Roboto unless there is a style that overrides it, like the H1, which is overriding it with Merriweather. And you've just brought in 2 web-based fonts. And what's great is it doesn't matter what font is on the person's computer because they're always going to see this font because it's web-based. So when the page loads, it loads in the fonts and everybody's going to have the same fonts. Don't forget to go File, Save All so that you've saved both your index.html and your notes style sheet.